Be careful. You might learn something.
Let's go.
You are now tuned in to the Factual Opinions Podcast with your hosts. I am Pharaoh. Straight facts.
What's up, world? Factual Opinions Podcast. This is season 5, episode 7. We are calling it A Story to Tell. It's your gracious host. I am Pharaoh, checking in with the Brown, Bruce Wayne, Big John.
Yes, sir.
Will West, the best Nate.
You know it.
And a special guest. The reason I called it A Story to Tell, because we want to tell his story and the miraculous run that him and the Aiken Falcons just went on as the leader and former head coach of the Aiken Falcons varsity boys basketball team. We have Mr. Derrell Black on the show. What's up, Coach?
Man, thank you for having me, bro.
Absolutely. So, 27-2, historical run all the way to the state finals. Came up just short. We were all rooting for you, especially all of us Cincinnati Public Schools alums. So how does it feel, man? You just, like you said, got done with a Channel 12 Coach of the Year exclusive. What's life been like since the season ended?
Man, life's kind of been crazy, man. I got a lot of calls, a lot of different interviews, podcasts. I got like some news stuff tomorrow, another podcast Saturday. City hall stuff, the district stuff. It's a lot, man. I feel like we're doing the whole thing.
Oh, you about to get the key to the city, bro.
Yeah, for sure. It's been good.
Yeah. So before we get right into the journey that you and your team and your players just went on and the rest of your coaches, I have to pivot a little bit. News of the day. Now, I don't know if everybody heard this quote. Executive Vice President of the Cincinnati Bengals, Katie Blackburn, says, I guess we could just about go anywhere in 2026. Tough talk. Now, Alicia Reese, this is no disrespect, and the rest of the people down there at City Council, y'all can keep talking tough if you want. Life is going to be much different. You F around and them Bengals leave town. Just want to throw that out there.
So will you be Bengals fans if they leave?
Yeah, I wouldn't. And I've been a lifelong. You know me. I'm a Bengals fan, so I've been here for it all. But not only would I not be a Bengals fan if they left the city, I would leave the city because there's no reason to stay here.
You ain't got no more reasons to be here.
It's not an NFL town.
I can live in a city without a football team.
Yeah. I'm with Big John.
That's deep.
Did you hear that too, Coach?
Especially all we got is the Reds. All we got is the Reds and FC Cincinnati. I'm not staying nowhere without a football team.
That's tough.
I heard that they was actually talking about that at the news station today, trying to see if she was serious about that. They said it might have got taken out of context a little bit. It wasn't like she was saying we gonna leave. It was just her just talking kind of.
I'm sure.
She can't play like that. She can't play like that.
The whole conversation probably wasn't, like you said, contextualized and brought up. But still, no fan base ever wants to hear that or even, you alluding to that at all. So that's pretty tough right there. I hope City Council gets it together. Because like I said, me and Big John were down there for opening day. We left in the top of the ninth when the Reds were up 3-2, thinking, oh, man, we got plenty of time to get back to the car and everything.
Not at
got
all.
Home, and they lost 6-4.
Gave up the church's money in the ninth inning.
Yeah, man. So Bengals fans, relax. It's just a little bit of political posturing. Hopefully, knock on wood. I mean, I've seen crazier things happen. They didn't think the Browns was leaving Cleveland the first time.
and it happened.
Yeah. So, but getting back to hoop, you guys' journey was pretty fun to watch and keep up with for a number of reasons. Like I said, all of us CPS alums feel some type of connection when we see a Cincinnati public school, achieving on or off the field or court, to be honest. But particularly, sports is something that people rally around. And with my beloved UC Bearcats not being anywhere near the NCAA tournament, it was kind of fun to watch you guys make that run. Now, the question I wanted to know is, when did you first realize or know that you had a special group in the making this year?
So in June, teams play summer camps and team camps and things of that nature. In the month of June, that's when you really get like a preview of what your team could be. So we played about between 30 and 35 games in the summer, went all over the Midwest to different universities and things like that. And I think we only lost like 3 games the whole stint. And I was like, man, at first I kind of, downplayed, like, it's the summer. So, some people ain't got everybody. And, games running clock, 10 minutes, 2 halves and things like that. But when I got around the coaches, I was like, this team could be special. If everybody lock in, everybody check their egos at the door, this team could be special. I think we added the right pieces with a team that was already coming off a lot of success the previous year. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what kind of put us over the top and allowed us to mesh with one another in the summertime.
Y'all lost to one of the top teams in the country. I only lost by what? Was it 6? Something like that in the summer?
Which team was it?
I'm not sure. I just caught wind of it.
I'm about to say, yeah, we played a bunch of teams though. So I know we lost to one of the top teams. We also lost to like the Westerville North team who just won a deep.
Yeah, I remember Westerville North.
We lost to them at Ohio State by 1. They didn't even play. Like, so we knew that we had a chance to be special. But yeah, we played some of the top teams in the country, and we played a lot of the top teams in the area.
Now, as far as getting, a group of guys to buy in, come to your school, your program, to a certain degree, recruiting has kind of become necessary even in high school. I mean, not that it hasn't always been, but kind of mirrors what's going on in college with, the transfer portal and different opportunities and guys wanting to link up and play. Was there any difficulty? I know it's something that you had been building for years, but was there any difficulty in getting guys initially to want to come to Aiken and selling them on what your program was going to be about?
Yeah, for sure. But it's, in high school basketball, it's big ramifications on like recruiting and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So what we tried to do is we tried to make our program as attractive as possible on social media. Our jerseys, the type of shoes we wear, like we went out and got like Kobe Bryant shoes for the whole team. So we fundraised like crazy. I think we raised over $100,000 in a 3-year stint that I.
Dang. Wow.
So we were able. We go to Florida. We on the beach in December. So like we make the program so attractive that it just attract kids. And then once you get 1 or 2 great players, they know all the other good players, and kids want to play with players, and families can move and they can do whatever. Different type of programs that our school got that they school don't have, and then you put all the formulas together and you get a good team. So I think the main thing was just making sure that we were the most attractive program in the city. And I think that if you look at our numbers out of all the CPS basketball, like Instagram pages and stuff like that, I believe we at the top. I don't know what Walnut has off the top of my head, but like we just got like the most followers. We try to push stuff out there. We just want to make sure that we always on somebody's live stream or live feed.
Nice. Other CPS schools, take note, please. There are ways and tools to make your program more attractive, get the word out there. Social media is definitely a necessary aspect of daily life now. So I'm not throwing shots at anybody in particular, but if you're watching, just, again, take note. No, that's cool, actually. Now, the question that I have is, once the season got started and, autumn rolls around and you have already had a look at certain guys, like you said, playing in the summer, but you're not really, sure exactly what you have. When you got on a roll during the season, what was that like? And I'm speaking as a former coach, Nate, even John has helped out, at schools. I know the daily battle sometimes existed with just trying to keep guys locked in and mentally focused, there at the school and making sure nothing's going on, outside of school that are taking guys away from their opportunity. But once the ball got rolling, was it kind of easy from that standpoint with guys buying in and realizing what, opportunity was in front of them?
Yeah, it was definitely tough. Like you said, when school first started and, you go from playing summer basketball with no classes, you just show up, work out and then go hoop. And that was easy. So when school started, it was definitely, some challenges to get them just to lock in and understanding the culture that we're trying to build, understanding the way that the school wants to flow and things of that nature. But we knew that as long as we can, dial in, get kids through our process of study tables, weight room, film, and then workouts every day, that we had a chance to keep them locked in. But then once the season started, with obviously basketball was the priority, so it was easier to kind of keep them engaged because you had a game every Tuesday, Friday, and maybe Saturdays.
Yeah. So with that said, season gets rolling. You guys get off to a tremendous start. Who was your toughest opponent during the regular season that you remember? Is there a game that stands out where guys were tested, you were tested as a coaching staff, and solidified what you were doing and building towards?
We had some early tests. I think we played a Louisville Ballard team at McNick. They had like a 6'9" big, couple guards with some D2 offers. We ended up beating them by one, but it was a game that challenged us. It was early in the season. I think the game was scheduled to be played at like 9 o'clock. The game started at like 10 o'clock. It was late.
Oh, Jesus.
People was tired. But
What was that about this season? It was like
yeah,
Will and them had like a game that started at like 9,
yeah.
and then they're combining like the girls playing before the guys at some school, and I wondered
Oh,
what was that
that's
about?
common practice at our alma mater at Schroeder, but
Yeah, I'm about to say, I think that's just like a small school thing, just try to
Small
keep
school thing.
involved. Like we did it my first year at Aiken. We did it with the girls when we played CCPA, just to try to get them a bigger crowd and things like that, trying to push athletics as a whole. But yeah, that Louisville Ballard team was really tough. They challenged us. They had a lot of guys that were taller than ours, and they had some athletes that could match ours. And they played a 2-3 zone that was super packed in. And like I said, the environment was kind of dead. The game was late, but we were able to pull it off about 1 point. So I think that might have been one of our toughest games early.
What's the biggest adjustment far as running into certain defenses now versus when you first started? I know the game speeds up, but what's probably the toughest part of defense when you change to that, when you transition to the next level?
You asking me like what's the hardest? Can you reset that real quick for me? I don't think I heard it
Yeah,
all.
what's the hardest defensive scheme that you've run into since you've transitioned to now you being a varsity coach? Because I know you as when you was a freshman coach and you moved right up.
Yeah.
So like, what was the biggest transition that was for you?
Well, my first this is what was crazy to me when I think about this. My first year at Aiken, the notorious man running jump teams were still trapped you. They ran and jumped you, and they played man to man. But then once Jaden Arnold and Baby J show up, now you going into these games like this team gonna trap you. They gonna do this and that. They come out in the zone. You like, dang. So the whole week I done prepared for this team to trap me and do what they do, and they go to a zone because they don't want to have to guard those dudes man to man the whole game. So I think that just the biggest adjustment was, making sure the other guys was ready. I think my two top scorers were special enough to, make a play if they had to. But I think that when the defenses started to key in on one or both of them, just making sure that we had some action on the opposite side of the ball to get other dudes free opportunities, whether it was a layup or a three. So just making sure that we watched every film possible. I had a heck of a scouting department. Like we knew mostly what everybody was gonna do besides when the man teams went zone. But and I think
Shout out to Saul and Dwight.
yeah. I think the other adjustment is just keeping the kids engaged. It seemed like every time we saw a zone, my kids kind of was like, here goes a zone again. And we kind of started off slow because it's like we were bored or didn't want to play that style of basketball, just keeping them motivated and focused on just trying to win.
Yeah, it's big on patience when you're dealing with defenses like that make the game, slow the game down.
Yeah.
Some players, some kids, these generation, they just want to go up and down. They want to be.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Yep. So I
yeah,
understand
they
that.
don't want to see that Jim Boeheim 2-3 zone out there.
Not at all.
The parents don't either. They want them to just shoot or two.
Why they doing that? What get them mad at that? No, it's not how it works.
Yeah.
No, it was refreshing to see a complete, basketball program and team, and the way you guys were able to adjust to multiple, styles, because I certainly, me and Big John are football players. That's what we did. We played all the way up through college, and we kind of prefer to see basketball played in the old school defensive way. My team was the New York Knicks growing up in that physical Oakley, Mason, Pat Ewing teams and stuff. So I'm not a big fan of the score 180 points a game. I like to see. I won't say just half court basketball, but I like to see a mixture.
Yep.
So I like to see teams that can do it all, and that was refreshing to watch with you guys. So when you get to the tournament and state playoffs. I know that had to be different because there's not a whole bunch of teams over the past decade from CPS that have made long runs like you guys did. But then you start getting all the attention, from everybody and the outside. And again, you got to get guys to stay, locked in. But yet you want them to enjoy the experience too. Along the way. So can you kind of talk about, what your approach was once the state tournament started as far as, wanting the guys to soak it all in versus staying locked in?
What's crazy is we went 21-0, and then last game of the season
lost to Trotwood.
Was Trotwood. So the thing about the Trotwood game, it was like I asked the guys because I knew how the city was going to respond, like, if we didn't have a big tournament run, because everybody was like, well, winning in the CMAC is cool and all that, blah, blah, blah. Can you win the tournament? So I told them, look, the draw was already done. The tournament draw was already done. I knew that this game didn't mean as much to Trotwood as it would mean to us because we wanted to go undefeated. So I asked the guys, I said, what you want to do? You want to go for it or not? They was like, let's go for it. So we went for it. We knew that we would just do a vanilla version of what we actually do and just go out there and play. We ain't want to show our hand because we knew what the matchup could be in the tournament because we both went opposite ways. And I made some bad calls down the stretch. I made some bad substitutions. I made a bad judgment of a timeout and ended up costing us the game. So in the locker room, the guys were like upset and sad, and I was the only one in there smiling. I said, "What you smiling for?" I said, "Because you got exactly what you needed." Because I thought we were starting to get tired of winning, and it sounds crazy, but to be 21-0, it started to feel like, one, you can't lose, and then it felt like, two, that you just kind of get tired of it. That's how the guys started to react to me. So when the tournament came out, we knew that we had to go avenge that loss because the social media, Trotwood fans, and people around the city was killing us about that. So that was motivation. It was bulletin board material, and our guys knew in order to get to them, you had to win about 4 games to meet them. So that motivation that we needed, and I think that's why we struggled in the LaSalle game because the closer we got, the thirstier we got to get to Trotwood. So we overlooking some teams and just being kids. They want to get back to them. I'm trying to tell them each and every game, like, everybody love you until you lose. So if you lose one of these tournament games, you're going to see who really love you.
Yeah.
And so every game we just stayed focused on. We had to go 1-0, and we wanted to get back to Trotwood real bad and show them what the real team looked like because we knew we were the better team. So that was able to happen. Then once you got to Trotwood and got that win, now you in historic territory for Aiken. You back to the Final Four, and the rest was just, icing on the cake.
Yeah. So, what was it like, and was it, cool to have people like the mayor showing up all of a sudden, showing support and like you said, the newspaper and news outlets and everything? That had to be different for, like I said, a CPS school because let's be honest, even though Aiken is one of the, older, more well-established, high schools, they're not necessarily one of the two that get all the headlines.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, I never mentioned them by name on here because I don't want to sound like a hater, but we know who they are. And of course, me and Big John always had a, inferiority complex, coming from Schroeder, so.
We can't say their name.
But I mean, just enjoying that part. And like I said, what it meant for, CPS, what was it like actually inside the school internally at Aiken?
Man, I wish, we got the guy to record all the games. We got all these videos after every game we play and things. But I wish we would have somebody like document like the atmosphere in the school. It was crazy, man. To get the love and the support was definitely surreal. It was something that we couldn't have never imagined because, in the city, our city high school sports is not the most friendly environment to be in,
Not at all.
Crazy. And it seemed like most of our CPS schools just don't like each other. especially during the competitions, and that's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
They don't.
like it started off as like you hear the people kind of doubting us at the beginning of the tournament, like, can they keep going? Can they keep? Then you got to like the Trotwood game, you had the whole city behind you.
Yep.
Get the
For
support of
sure.
the whole city. It wasn't about what school you was at. It was about Cincinnati versus whoever else.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what became like, wow, like this really crazy. We bring the whole city together like this, and having the mayor show up. And before we went to the Final Four or the state championship game, we had like send off videos. So it's celebrities on it,
Mm-hmm.
alumni. It's just known people around the city, all on there giving us shout outs and wishing us well wishes. And then like to pull off, and you see all the kids at the elementary schools wave, and it was like you won already before you even played the game.
Yep.
The final, you did something historic. You did something that only a few teams even ever been to. Period, whether they won or lost to the state final. And you showed a lot of people how to come together and how to win. So the school was crazy, man. They ordering us stuff every day. We getting food from the district every day. They showing real mad love.
Yeah.
It was good, man, because those guys deserved it, and I thought that the city did well for us, and they really showed up for us. So we appreciated that, and we love that.
So I'm gonna go off the limb, and I'm gonna tell you something you probably didn't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you your flowers. Everybody deserves their flowers while they still alive. Mr. Black, you have changed the culture of Cincinnati basketball, and I don't think you know what you've done for the city.
Appreciate it.
You're starting to realize it now due to the fact that these awards are coming in. But the thing is, you got alumni that have not talked in over 20 to 25 years, all hanging together now to go to y'all games, which is a beautiful thing, and it's amazing. And I also want to give you a shout out for getting my big bro Spurlock his
Yeah.
flowers,
Yeah.
being Mr. 42 himself, in regards of showing notoriety to the alum there. So you definitely brought a different culture to Aiken. You definitely brought a winning culture to Aiken. They've had coaches in the past that have had a winning culture. Shout out to Cass and previous to that, but you brought a different level. You brought the city behind you, and you did it the correct way. You didn't. There,
Yeah.
a lot of people say if you do it a certain way, people will support you. You did it the perfect way. So I just want to give you your flowers on that, man. You did a great job with them, and you made that team look. Everybody in the city feared your team, and it didn't. I don't even think you knew that, but that was something that was going on. So I applaud you, bro. Congrats and everything for you.
I appreciate that, bro. And I actually had an alumni reach out to me. It's crazy because he said the same exact thing. He said, bro, I saw people that I ain't seen in over 20 years.
Yep.
And when he said that, I was like, I thought he was just kind of talking, but
No.
like it was crazy.
And then I'm a little older than you, so
Yeah.
I know a little bit of the history behind a lot of their alum. It go back to when they was playing, after they was playing. So it was a lot of things going on in the city at the time, but to see all them there at that game supporting y'all, cause y'all there was crazy.
Yeah.
It's amazing, bro.
Appreciate it.
It's amazing.
It's definitely not just talk, brother, because I know that me and Big John in particular have worked really hard to try to reestablish that connection to the alumni base at Schroeder. And we don't have half of what, Aiken and some of the other schools do as far as the amount of years as a high school and the alumni base and stuff. But it's hard, man, to get people re-engaged
For sure.
and back in the school environment and wanting to connect. But one of the things that, can do that, as I've stressed to a lot of people, is sports. And, it creates a winning culture and environment around the whole school. It makes kids want to come to school and stay eligible and do their work and be, in that positive school environment instead of going off, doing other stuff where they can get distracted, So, winning cures all. It's one of those old
For
cliches,
sure.
as they say.
Yeah, but I think you got something good right there, like you said, the importance of sports for the school culture as a whole, and I think CPS is trying to work their way up to get better, understanding that, and I know Miss Murphy is a sports person as the new superintendent, so I think we're gonna be headed towards that direction, and I know some of the resources get tied up, and we got a lot of different schools in our district, so sometimes it's harder than say like a Lakota or a Princeton where it's only a single school district. But I think that I'm hoping that this success right here we'll start to have some of those conversations on, some advancements we can make to try to put, a little bit more emphasis on athletics, because it does do something, especially for our population, our community, because that's what kind of, get some of these guys motivated to do good in school and to come to school, so that, so once we start putting a little bit more back into athletics, I think it'll change, everything from test scores to opportunities and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think that like winning cures all, but I think that if we build it up right and keep pushing it forward, I think it could win for the whole district.
What's up,
I
Nori?
agree. Yeah, I mean, that word student athlete, like I said, it's all encompassing. I used to say, one doesn't go without the other for those that are involved in athletics and want to, achieve. And I felt like, a lot of times when, me, Nate, and Big John were in school, athletics were kind of a second, thought for, the
Mm-hmm.
district. So I do see more of an effort to put that to the forefront, more of an effort to get kids involved in the different sports too, besides just the big three, wrestling and everything else now is being pushed at certain, schools and giving them opportunities to further, their education. And like I always say, there's certain experiences that you're not just going to get by only being in the classroom.
Yeah, for
Athletics
sure.
teaches a lot of life lessons that, usually can't be taught or at least maintained in any other realm other than in sports, where it really hits home and they remember. They're not going to remember that equation that they're not going to use after they graduate from school on that, math paper. But like you said, being part of a winning culture, organization, learning teamwork, depending on others, being accountable, to others, is things that you learn, through sports and life lessons that oftentimes, like I said, you can't get anywhere. So I'm proud of y'all. Like I said, as a Cincinnati public alum, I know the basketball has the All-Star game now, something that didn't, exist,
It's
back in our
big this year
time.
too. It's big.
Um, Crazy, great opportunity for the kids to get, exposure and things that honestly, other cities and stuff, have been doing for a long time. I grew up
Mm-hmm.
watching, New York City public school league basketball. I've talked to Jamel Thomas, the older brother of Sebastian Telfair and cousin of, Stephon Marbury. I talked to, Bearcats legend Kenny Satterfield, Leonard Stokes, often. So I know what it's like other places and how they've had those platforms for a long time. So I am very happy to see these kids starting to get that opportunity and, playing down there at Fifth Third Arena and everything. That's big, man.
Are
So
your kids
I'm
playing the
Yeah,
real?
yeah.
They gonna play? Okay.
I'm playing. I think I got something in like a dunk contest and a 3-point contest.
Oh, okay.
nice. So with that said, though, coming up just short in the state, final game and everything, I would be remiss if I didn't ask, brother. So you have a great season like that. There's something building, something in the air. You're starting to get kids that want to come to, Aiken and could, possibly build on, that and start a little dynasty within the city. Wiley Eve.
Um, so one thing people don't know is that one, I got 4 kids and a wife. So some people don't know that, but that's one.
That's a
But
fact.
yeah,
That's a wrestling match right there.
yeah. But two, I'm heavy into church. I go to
Okay.
church days a week.
Mm-hmm.
I go Tuesday, Friday, Sunday. Only time I don't go is when I'm at a basketball game.
There you go.
So I got a responsibility there too. I'm a youth pastor. I got a lot of different things going on, and so I'm heavily locked in with God and trying to figure out what's the next move,
Mm-hmm.
best move, and things of that nature. And this crazy thing is, I believe that's a big part of the reason why we were successful this year, because I felt that it was getting close. I didn't know it was gonna be this close, and I'll tell you the story here in a minute. But
Mm-hmm.
before every game in the tournament, my prayer, because I don't come out the locker room until the 10-minute mark of warm-ups. So
As you should. That's a coach ritual.
so when the kids are warming up, I'm trying to get myself together. So, my prayer before every game was like, all right, Lord, if this is the last season, let's go out with a bang. And it took us all the way to the state final. But I was telling some of the kids, like, man, I might retire. I think it's gonna be it. And they thought I was joking, and I was just kind of joking too. But after all that,
You got that sign, didn't you?
Huh?
You got that sign from the big guy, didn't you? You
Yeah.
gave
Really, what happened was my wife was in the she was in a running to get a promotion at work, and it was like a 2-month thing, and it was like one of those director positions, so it was back and forth, and I thought they weren't gonna give it to her, so I was kind of like, all right, well, I got some more time to kick it.
Mm-hmm.
After we won the state championship, the next Monday she going to the office, they give her the promotion.
Oh,
So
congrats!
she come home this Monday. I'm getting ready for next year. She said we need to talk. So I'm like, talk about what? I ain't really trying to talk to nobody right now. Man, we just lost the state championship by 2. I really ain't trying to talk.
Yeah, you over it. You like, I don't even want. What you talking to me for?
Yeah, but she, she talked to me, and we sat down and talked about sacrifices. I've been coaching for 13 years, and for 13 years, she was there with me for 8 of them. So for 8 years with her, as a married couple, she had to sacrifice, pick up all the kids, take them to school. Sometimes I leave at 6 in the morning, get home at 10 at night. So she going to battle for the house. And with that promotion, it was gonna cost for her to be out a little bit more, and be out the house and more involved with her job. So I told her, like, you sacrificed for me for 8 years, it's time for me to sacrifice for you. So I knew it was getting close. I did not expect it to happen like that. But when God, I prayed.
Let me bring my fiance in here real quick. Hold on, I'm just playing. I ain't even about to do that.
Yeah, but when God give you all those signs and stuff, and I felt it for a while. I knew it was time for me to step away, and it ain't never a right time, right?
Nope, no, never.
And
I ain't gonna hold you. When I found out, and they was like, yeah, he said he done. I'm like, because I called, I got some sources. Yeah. So when I found out, I said, hey man, you can't go against what's going on.
Well, from the factual opinion standpoint, when we were trying to get you on the episode and Nate was, reaching out, and I heard, oh, he's got a big announcement. I'm thinking like, oh, something related to the program at Aiken, or he might be taking a bigger job somewhere or something.
And I had already knew what was going on. So
when I heard that on the news, I'm like, whoa.
Oh, right. What's crazy is that same Monday, so school's been calling me all tournament. Like, hey,
for sure.
Everybody was thinking I was leaving to go to another school. And when I sat down and thought about it, it was crazy money thrown at me. Like, a school called me that day, offered me over $100,000 to take the next coaching job. And
Jesus.
And I told him, I said, well, look, bro, I appreciate it. It'd be that was a great thing for you to offer that to me. I said, but I'm retired. He thought I was playing. He's like, no way. So
our money ain't good money though, Derrell.
Yeah, but like at that point, like, I knew that I was on my way out. I wouldn't want to start nothing new and just do it for the money, or start something like and leave a legacy that we just built and just kind of just leave it because I was chasing the next, what I thought was the best opportunity, because I saw dudes take those next jobs and end up, trying to backtrack.
Trash. Trash.
It ain't always about that, and it's some opportunities out there that probably could be great or would be great, but it was just time for me to step away. So I had to realize that, and really just trust that God was gonna get me in the right direction. After.
Well, you heard it here, folks. Factual Opinions Podcast exclusive. Coach Black goes into detail about his decision to step away from the game and what prompted that.
It's crazy, man. People was calling everybody else except for me, right? So thinking I didn't have some type of scandal or all type of stuff. Like,
yeah. I heard you was getting a divorce. I'm like, no, bro. I said they ain't gonna ever get divorced. I already knew what it was. When I heard that, I said, I don't know who told you that, but that sounds like some straight foolishness but there.
Look though, that's why we got to clean up from youth sports all the time, because that is the common story. Like, when somebody stepped down immediately, he did something janky. He didn't touch. He didn't cheat. So like,
he didn't touch the kid.
Yeah,
what do you mean?
That piece of people's thoughts. It was crazy to me, and it was comical, and that's why I was happy y'all called me for the podcast, because I was like, man, let me just tell people what happened, because people were gonna speculate on everything, and I really don't care, because I just don't really care what you think. But it was funny because everybody called everybody else except for me, and thinking that something else happened besides me actually having a decision just to, like, be done.
But then I'm gonna tell you this: when I heard, he was like, nah, he's stepping down, and I was like, I said, I already knew you was heavy in church.
Yeah.
So I already knew that. I was like, I guarantee you it's because it's a ministry.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, Mike told me, he said, nah, he's stepping down because he gonna focus on the ministry and his family. I
Yeah.
said, that sound like black. It ain't nothing else to it.
But
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong
So,
with that.
and it ain't nothing wrong with it at all.
I took my
But
Bible to work with me today. Just let me jump in, Nate. There's starting to be days where that's all I want to do is just read that good book
Yeah.
and just cut off from the rest of the world because it can
yeah,
become overwhelming. And I do miss coaching high school football. Football is still my first love and always will be. But it was a decision that I had to make for health reasons. And I'm not saying that I'll never coach again, but like you said, when you get that conviction and it's the right decision and to stand on that, you kind of doing the
mm-hmm.
Lennox Lewis thing. Now there's other opportunities thrown out there, but my man's going to stay pat on it. And especially if it's God, directing that decision, you never know, what opportunities in the future might, come along, or whatever you decide to entertain. That's your prerogative, for right now. Because I know, like, when I first heard the news without being plugged into the situation, all I could think of was like nothing to do with you necessarily, but I'm like, man, just for some reason, it always seems like every time there's something good going on at CPS, and I'm talking about in or out of the classroom, or a guy or a female that the kids really, flock to and have a relationship with, for whatever reason, they just seem to be, eradicated and removed from the situation. So I'm thinking like, wow, like they just made a run to the state finals and something could be building, here. And not to say that, kids can't, stay there and decide to do that. But, like I said, typically, and John can attest to this, that one person is who people follow.
Yep.
We were 0-10 my sophomore year, John's freshman year. Still mostly a bunch of ninth and 10th graders playing a varsity schedule, but for guys that had dominated on the junior high scene and in Pee Wee and stuff, we weren't used to losing, at all. We had a guy come in by the name of Greg Conwell that immediately changed the culture and things around. And for whatever reason, he wasn't allowed to finish my senior year, John's junior year, but we did win league championship, one of two in Schroeder football history that exists to this day, back in '04, although we're dating ourselves now. But we still, I mean, obviously we had to go out there and get it done, and we had, good assistant coaches and stuff too, but Conwell was the guy, and we know that, and we still attribute that, to his leadership. So, and I'm sure the kids feel the same way at Aiken, and similar to my journey with coaching over at Purcell. Just because you're not coaching anymore doesn't mean those
That
relationships
relationship
obviously
stop.
have to stop and are not going to stop in most cases. I had players that still reach out to me to this day over their existing coaches that they have at their current schools, or kids that have
Mm-hmm.
gone on to college that still will reach out to Coach Alex and want to talk. So I'm sure that'll be the same way for you.
Yeah, so the thing is, when I got back to the, we went on spring break right after this. So that announcement came the Friday before we returned to school and all that. So when I returned to school, man, everybody's so sad walking around there. Kids asking me when I'm leaving. And the best part about all of this is that I'm still gonna be in the building. I'm not leaving Aiken High School. I'm
Mm-hmm.
be a part around the athletics program. I'm still going to be around the basketball program, helping guys out. I'm still going to be a mentor in the building. I'm still going to be whatever resource they need. So I'm sure I'll pop up at an occasional practice here and there, games and stuff like that. It's just when I got time now, it's just going to be all dependent upon what my schedule is. But I'm
Sure.
still going to be in the building. I'm still going to try to have that same impact. I'm still going to try to be a mentor to those to those guys, and I'm still going to try to be around to help the program out any way I can. So. That's
So
Absolutely.
since you said that, I'm gonna go ahead and be the messy guy.
yeah.
Who is replacing you?
Well, the interview. I think the application just opened yesterday.
Okay.
And it's stay open for, I believe it's 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then after 2 weeks, they're gonna take whatever applicants it is and go from there. So a lot of people think it's an easy thing, like they can just replace it with one of my assistant coaches.
That's what I was thinking. I was waiting for you to give me that juice and tell
You
me that they was gonna give it to your top
lawsuit.
assistant.
That way you're gonna get a lawsuit.
Yeah,
So
I got you. I got you. I got you. I get what you going with this.
you got to do the proper channels, and I think some of the guys from the staff going to apply. I think it might be a few guys from the current staff that apply, and they rightfully should, because what I've been preaching to some of them guys, because some of these guys have been with me since I was the head coach at Hughes, my first year as a head coach, and I always told them I don't want nobody around me who wants to be a head coach not pursue head coaching roles.
For sure.
Because why would what would I get from having you stay under me forever? So a lot of these guys got enough information where they can go out and start their programs, and it won't be perfect wherever they go, and where if they get opportunities here or elsewhere, but they'll be ready.
I thought you was gonna stay at our alma mater. I swear I did.
What up, Cuzzo?
Yeah.
I thought you was gonna stay. And I was like, I don't know about this. But shout out to Mike Hill. Mike Hill doing his thing. Mike Hill's actually trying to get the alumni to be involved. So
he invited me to alumni. He made the game we played on alumni night.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, last year.
Yeah, I think that was when they made us go in the middle of the court. Was that last year?
That was last year.
Yeah. I just didn't. I ain't gonna play with y'all. I'm old now. It's over. This ankle don't work no more. This hip don't work. It's getting bad. But I'm gonna say that I do got I do. Yeah, I got gray hair coming in. These kids.
Oh boy, that's why it was time to go. My whole head would have been gray if I'd have stayed.
Man, what? I already know how it is. But
is that little Gooch, Nate?
Yeah, that's little Gooch.
Boy, what's up, Gooch?
They gotta change his name. I keep saying that.
His name Damon. Just say Damon, bro. You ain't gotta say it.
Right, I'm not calling that man little Gooch, bro.
But my next question is, do you think? All right, so I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna give you half, and then I'm gonna give you the question. So I just did coaching. My son goes out to Freedom Elementary in Westchester. They charge $25 a head for each kid to play in their little March Madness tournament. It's 16 teams. 25 times, and you got 10 kids, or between 6 to 10 kids on each team. So that's $25 a head. Do you think we in the inner city, I know it's harder for us, what do you think would actually help bring more funding to the programs in the city? Outside of donations.
Yeah, that was gonna be my first thing. Like, I think that we got to figure out a way to tap into some of these professional sports. And the Reds got the Reds Academy.
They gave a lot away to CPS this year.
Yep, I think FC do something with Cincinnati. I'm not sure what the Bengals do. I know they do some turf, giveaways or something like that. But I think that could be a.
They aim for them kids up there though.
I know they did some turf at like one of the suburban schools and stuff like that. But like, we need it in the city. But I think what you're talking about is like a pay to play type of thing, right? Mm-hmm. And that bring money into the school. It bring money into the athletics programs, and I think it is possible. But I think it's a heavy deterrent, because people are gonna be like, well, if I got to pay for this team, it just comes with a lot more. Like they're gonna expect a lot more stuff if they got to pay to actually just play. But
so I'm gonna ask this question as well.
Yeah.
Do you think we should do what AAU is doing and build sponsorships behind each school and program in the city?
Yeah, I think it's some things out there that the city is working on currently. I know they pitched the idea to the whole group last year about a sponsorship, but it was more so like, you get a jersey, you get 2 jerseys, 2 pair of shoes, whatever, for a cheaper price. I think if we can build up a clientele of sponsors, that it'll help us out. But I think one of our issues that we run into in CPS is that we got so many different schools. So if you get a sponsor for CPS, now you got to split up against 14 high schools, and you got to stay even just to be fair. So that's why schools. That's why
you don't.
That's why some of the other schools got booster programs.
Mm-hmm. I remember remember we had the booster store.
Yeah. Yep. So when you get the booster program, now you can just pour that money into your own school. So I think if schools could but that come with like alumni, like you said, trying to reach an alumni fan base. That come with probably with winning. So I bet you if I wanted to start one at Aiken, we probably could get one right now.
Probably.
And try to run with it from there. But I think we got to figure out a way to generate some more money, and it's tough. You got budget cuts, or you got.
Listen, this is the plan I'm thinking. What if we plug each CPS school with a local business to develop funding for each school? They don't all have the same. It ain't the same business. Each school has a business that sponsors them.
It's
I think
supposed to
that
be
would be
that
an
way
amazing
anyway,
idea.
though, Nate. Like, and
Huh?
not to. It's supposed to be that way anyway, in my opinion,
It
because
is, but I
being
feel
a
like we need to
person. Well, hold
re-promote
on.
it though.
Let me finish though. Being one of the people that works behind the scenes in Schroeder with people and the athletic director like Newberry and stuff, I understand, and I'm not gonna put any of that on here. The opportunities that do exist with local businesses and organizations in your area. I think that it should be the way that professional baseball is, in a sense where it's like, look, instead of worrying about trying to disperse stuff and split it up evenly around the district, let each school go get their own bag, in my opinion.
That's what I'm speaking of. That's like Schroeder's over there by Fifth Third. Have
Over there
Fifth
by
Third do a
MedPace, over
sponsorship
there
with
by
him.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're over there
there's
by Coke. So they
opportunity.
have somebody behind them. So use those businesses around them, like Aiken. Aiken's out there by Children's, or they got things over there off of Belmont. The YMCA is right there. They have sponsorship. Like, just using business around these schools to actually develop funds for these schools. Because it's to the point CPS is not getting money from the state. So we obviously know that. We're not getting the funding locally from city things. But my
That's
thing
why
is,
I'm
why
saying
not?
each individual school should be able to go
Yeah, they
get
each
their
should be able to
own,
get their own.
opportunities, because
I
I
think
want Schroeder to have a football stadium. I'll put that out there publicly. They're not going to get that from the district. I can let you know that. So it's going to be on their own accord to go out and establish those connections and get a sponsor or get Fifth Third or somebody to give up, land or something over there. That's not going to happen from the district. And just throw
Mm-mm.
that out there.
Yeah, I think that's the toughest thing. Like, I think each school can go get their own bag. I think that is something that is allowed. Now, I think it's tougher to get sponsors to come off with some money because of the times that we're in, with some federal funding being cut, and just trying to see what's the real benefit of them doing that, like what they gonna get back from it. Like, so some people want to see what they gonna get back from the to a
That's
school.
what it is.
That's
And
why I say we aim for bigger businesses that can use this as a tax write-off.
yeah,
But
I
Go
know
ahead, Big John.
that's
bigger.
too. But what me and Al had talked about that, man, and you hit the nail on the head. A lot of businesses want to know what's going to be their come up. Yeah, they want to help. Yeah, they want to give back, but they want to know what's going to probably move their bottom line. So we can laugh at this, but I kind of feel like they can kind of do what the NBA does, what WNBA does, what soccer does. Put a little logo on the jersey, put something, do something. But it has to be something to make the pen move. But when you do that, the school also has to be winning. They have to be
Bing,
seen.
bing, bing, bing,
They
bing,
have
bing.
to be looked at to get that marketing out there. So even
Mm-hmm.
if it's necessarily Schroeder and we walk around with a Coca-Cola logo on the jersey, all right, are y'all winning? Can the logo be seen? So it all goes hand in hand. But like you said, that money is not just going. Ain't nothing in life for free. Even some
No,
charity
for sure.
ain't nothing free. So it has to be some type of give or take, especially with these big businesses.
Yeah, but like even that, to that point, like you said, so if I can go to this Cincinnati public school, I can go to this private school and put my money in that, and then they gonna blow it up. Alumni go all over the place. The teams winning, whatever. So we also competing with other schools that's close to our schools and it's close to our district with some of these bigger companies, because they might have ties to the president or the owner or whatever that some of our Cincinnati public schools might not have. So you also got that competition in your own backyard sort of thing too.
I'm
So
gonna say this. I'm gonna say this real quick. You know who is sponsored by Fifth Third and also sponsored by Coca-Cola? Seven Hills High School. you're competing with these schools like Derrell,
Well,
like he's saying. And the thing is, they haven't been a winning culture in years. But you know what? Like Big John said, they're getting the money back because
money begots
that's one of the most expensive schools in the city.
money begots money, and that's exactly right.
Yeah.
It costs more per year to go there than it does to attend the University of Cincinnati.
Hmm.
So,
That's
you
correct.
know, at the end of the
That's
day, I
for
mean, and
real. Al ain't lying. That's
that's
real. We
not the
can look
only
it
one. I
up.
mean, there's other private schools, St. X, and the rest of them. That's true there also. So I don't know that you're competing, with them as much as it's important to, establish whatever individual relationships you can, because there's always going to be, like Coach said, people that are more plugged or have, that connection, already, but there's still opportunities out there. And a lot of it does come back, as I said, to winning, just period, point blank. Like, a lot of people are not willing to put their logo or their brand on, product that's not going to be consistent or not, yield, the results that they want, either. So that's a whole nother issue of getting people to stay in the district and, finding consistency in, the school as far as the adults and the administrators and stuff. But there are still opportunities there that I believe, aren't really being, pursued to the fullest extent. So, I mean, it can happen. But one of the things I wanted to bring up, Nate, when you were talking about that, whether it's Hughes, there's opportunities right there at your alma mater, across the street and just everywhere, in Clifton. I think one of the issues we also run into, that Coach mentioned, is how many schools there are in Cincinnati public. But by the same token, I can look at other states and I can see that's where public schools dominate. I'm talking about basketball or football. Now, there's a reason why it's not necessarily the case in the city of Cincinnati, but I still think there are ways to even combat that. And it does start with having the right people in place in the school on these, athletic programs and stuff, and building a winning culture. Because today's kids, even more so than us, I don't think, and this is just my opinion, I don't think they want to start from scratch. You
Can
know,
you post that comment, Al, that just was posted?
yeah, Cordell said those sponsors want to produce future employees. They don't care about
I
athletics.
don't agree with that due to the fact that I've seen athletes that are not successful in sports. I understand what he's saying, but there are people that are successful in sports and they just want to be behind them. So there are still good people out here. It's not always about
Well,
developing a relationship with their business.
I need to finish before I, forget
Go ahead,
that
go ahead.
previous thought. So with the number of schools that are there, because I remember back in the day, even before our time, there was a school called Cape in Cincinnati,
Mm-hmm.
that was kicking major ass around the city, for lack of a better word. And there's a reason why that school got shut down. Because when you start embarrassing, St. X and Elder and some of these other schools and stuff, they broke that up into the many Cincinnati public schools that we have, where the talent is separated as opposed to being saturated in one area or main school where all the talent is being. Now, again,
Some of the
can't
best
really,
athletes came out of that school as well, though.
yeah, like the great Carlos Snow that went on to the, uh, but
And Dave Parker.
yeah, well, you brought up Dave Parker, so now I got to get sidetracked. So, um, and this can be confirmed. So, my dad, God rest his soul, Big Dave, aka Tank, is the reason that Dave Parker went on to become a Major League Baseball player. Why? And this can be confirmed by Mr. Parker himself, because I've heard him say it in front of me. My dad blew Dave Parker up in the hole, and
Oh, in
he
football.
decided, yeah, to pursue baseball because he actually hurt him. And
So
yeah,
your daddy was ill out there trying to hurt people in the field.
I didn't
Hey,
say he
football
was
players,
trying,
we make hoopers and baseball players.
That's a
but
that's a
hey,
fact. I stopped playing
We make
D'Angelo
hoopers and
Washington. You can get on here. You fell on me, and it was over.
My cousin. See, it runs in the blood. So no, he wasn't trying to hurt nobody. But Big Dave played nose guard, and his rule was anything tackle to tackle is mine. So you come up that middle, you got a price to pay.
It's over with.
So that's what happened. But no, like I think even with everything being split up, like we've seen Taft win a state championship a few years ago with Rayvon.
Ian, Rayvon, Ian.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't happen a lot in CPS, but it can. Now it's been a long time since we had a football team come close. I mean, Withrow made a run, year before last.
Taft was pretty close last year.
Yeah, Taft was just there.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got big bro. Mike Peel. He said, bottom line, historically and forever going forward, Cincinnati is a Germantown. The politics of this city foundational makeup goes beyond all in our pay grades and understandings. That's the city's issue. Well, you hit the nail on the head, Mike. I was trying to be somewhat politically correct about it, but everybody knows what I'm hinting at.
Yeah,
when I say that.
No lies.
But with that said, there are still pockets I believe you can win because although it was a different time, like I said, you've had football teams that Withrow make runs. You've had football teams at Taft. It's few and far between at me and Big John's alma mater, but hey, we were on one of those teams that was, historically, great. It can happen if the right people are there. Now, sustaining it is, the issue, but that also taps into the people that are in place in the district who do look like us and have our complexion, also not being content with the status quo. Also, that's a whole nother issue.
Withrow was one of the most sponsored schools in CPS in the city. And that comes from their alumni.
Been in school for over 100 years.
It was their alumni. Their alumni. It wasn't. They
they've
ain't getting nothing
been
given
a
to
school
them.
for over 100 years. So yeah, that equates to an alumni base.
Yeah. So,
most of us at Schroeder are just now, particularly those of us that graduated in the first 3 classes, we're the first group that's just now getting to a point where we might have disposable income to give back to, the school or time to do so. So that's, every school situation is different. And that's ultimately what I'm getting to is every school has to assess, what winning looks like for them and how to go about it. And that's why I was saying like every school needs to pursue their own, bag is the only way that's even going to be possible. I think trying to split it up evenly, it's not even. Okay, Gamble is not on the same level as Withrow. There are just differences, and I'm not talking down on any particular program. I'm just saying you had to be real about your situation and what winning looks like to you.
Right. And it's crazy because over the years we've had different conversations, whether it's Al, me, you, Nate, and a couple years ago when we was in college, and I don't know if you remember this conversation, Al, we had a big conversation about cutting back some of the schools. Some of the high schools that are in Cincinnati Public. Instead of having, what would you say, we got 14 to 16 major high schools, cut it down to like 5 or 6. That will keep some of the
What's your definition of major? Some of
the money. Yeah, I was going to say, what's the definition of major?
Okay.
I know, though, so, all right.
I'm just saying what he just said. The definition of major, you focusing on the wrong thing. That's fine.
I'm being funny, Big John.
It may not be 15 or 16 major schools, but I'm just saying, cut it down. Cut it down. Hell, even I love my school to death. Take Short away. Cut it down to at least.
But they're not going to do that because of the amount of money that they just spent on that building. That's still not all that long ago when they did that,
But they shut down buildings after building them up 5 years. So that ain't got nothing to do with nothing.
What school?
They just the junior high just got moved to the old YMCA, bro.
So that's letting you know that, man.
That's letting you know something.
You talking about the only schools I see that were shut down like that were old buildings that they just weren't going to reinvest in, like Jacob Center,
And then Schroeder, they just shut down the old Schroeder. They just tore that down.
They didn't shut that down. That ain't been
doing the same thing with Northwest.
CPS gave that building up in 2013, Nate. That was over a decade ago.
I mean, my point.
I was still going in there.
I understand that they're not going to do that, but that will keep the money in house. That will keep the talent in house. instead of having all these schools trying to disperse all these kids to different places. That will keep the talent home.
If they do that, you know where everybody's going, particularly on the east side. Now you want to talk about the ops. So I'm not gonna say that.
They got
not to be funny. If we can get it to 4 or 5 schools,
talking about why I gotta shut us down.
Hold on. If not to be funny, if we can get it to 5 or 6 schools where we kick it, excuse my language, where we kicking ass and taking names, I don't care. Honestly, I don't care. If we can get our kids in a position to where they kids are, I don't have no problem with that.
What Big say on the Hypnotized video when Puff was throwing all that money out, I care. No, right. I care, bro. Because again, essentially what you saying is shut it down, and the two that we ain't gonna mention on here, you know, and Aiken on the west side, maybe West High might survive it. Cut 2. That's the 4 that you talking about.
No, this is my thing. If we do that, if that happens, John, I only really see West High, Withrow, Woodward, Aiken. It'll go back to them days when we was in 04, like y'all was new schools. It'll go back to them days, like it'll be Withrow, West High.
They can shut
Aiken,
your school down, Nate, for real.
They can shut your school down. We're
historic. They're never
historic what?
Our building's historic. Our school been around long as much as Withrow.
Y'all don't need an athletic program. So.
God, y'all barely got a gym.
Yes, we do got a gym. What are you talking about?
Barely.
What, the rec center next door?
Man, they talking about Hughes ain't got no gym. Man.
Bro, what is a Big Red? We still don't know what a Big Red is.
It was an Indian back in the day.
It was a soda when I was in school.
It was a who?
So Nate, when I transferred for 5 weeks my junior year, your senior year, before I went back to
5 weeks. That is crazy. 5 weeks.
That summer homework is crazy.
It is. It was. It absolutely was.
Had me an ISS getting behind in my classes. So at the end of the day, I remember that hike to what was it, Corey Field? Every day walking down there. Now they getting ready to try to get rid of that. Ain't nothing down there, Nate. I'm sorry, bro.
Y'all finna
you gotta go to the gym next door, the rec center.
Man, y'all finna be UC parking lot.
The rec center ain't even there no more. It's Hughes.
Y'all finna be UC
Hughes
parking
got
lot.
the building. They took
all
over.
Them hospitals and all them hotels they building by y'all school. Y'all finna be UC parking lot.
We got the buildings, y'all. Golly, y'all acting like we ain't got the buildings.
What building?
Ain't no Crook Center no more. It's Hughes.
Hey man, spell my school right.
Yeah, he ain't even spell Schroeder right, man.
Spell my school right, cause you.
Yeah, man. Okay, so Maurice Lovett. Maurice Lovett is a little bit after me. He's a legend, but yeah, we definitely need our school to be spelled right if you gonna shout us out.
That's the dude from the Peanuts. That ain't Schroeder, bro.
Yeah, this is not Charlie Brown. See, but that's the type of, not to get too far off track, that's the type of disrespect that me and Big John became accustomed to, members of the original Schroeder football program, not even spelling your name right, or the whole
They used to put an E in y'all name in the tournament.
Schroeder, ain't y'all junior high? You know, that's the stuff that we used to, get. So even the current Schroeder kids don't really know nothing about, that. But yeah.
Well, yeah, man. I something has to happen. But my point was, something has to happen to try to keep the talent and the money at home. And I feel like once we had a conversation of keep splitting it 16, 17 different ways, it's never gonna happen.
It's never gonna happen. But again,
let me ask Mr. Black, what school do you think needs to be shut down? I know you ain't part of no program no more. You ain't a part of no program no more. So you can say what you.
Nah, not Hughes.
Hughes don't. You keep saying that, bro.
That's still the home.
Hughes ain't gonna ever go nowhere, bro.
Well,
Schroeder gone before Hughes.
Yeah, well, I think the problem we run into is a twofold thing. Like y'all said earlier, they don't want to shut down certain buildings because they might have just built them or whatever. But I think another problem is, what school is going to be able to house a whole nother high school right now? So you're going to have to build another high school anyway. But I think that if they did knock down schools and make, let's say, a north, south, east, and a west type of school, then I think you would get money back eventually because of what they do.
The key word you just said, they don't want to do that. They would have to house another high school, right? But that's when you build a program and you build a high school that can have facilities.
Okay, so bring back Kate. Let's quit bullshitting and just throw that out there.
I have no problem with that.
Get rid of
Cape is historic. The only thing about Cape is where Cincinnati State was. So where would you put Cape?
There's space around the city. Ask these developers to keep gentrifying stuff. So yeah, we can find a spot.
Yeah, they got it.
Or make it a prep school. I think we need a prep school because Don wasn't it. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm just be honest.
But we're also getting away from what I keep saying. It is this simple as I'm making it. Regardless, if you consolidate or go that route, somebody has to win and win consistently to get the type of fundraising and program, off the ground consistently to do what we're referring to and wanting a school or a couple schools, to do. Regardless, because I'm gonna keep going back to that, whether it's sponsorship or getting kids to want to come. Every time we see that, whether even at Schroeder, where we had certain coaches that did that in the past, and shout out to brother Darren and Dewan and the staff that's there now, building back to that. But whether it was Conwell, whether it was Womack. Obviously Doc at, Withrow, and I'm speaking, mainly of the football, but we've seen it obviously in basketball, too. Guys, also internally get ran out from within this district too, or jealousy starts to creep in. So there's a whole lot of other factors that is involved in this. But I am curious because I want to pick, Coach Black's brain on a few other things and some of his inspirations coming up, who he looked up to basketball wise and coaching and stuff. But I am interested in hearing and having him finish who he thinks should be knocked now.
I'm waiting for bro. That's all I've been waiting for. I've been waiting on the answer. He still ain't answered that question. He tried to hit me with a politics answer and tried to deflect and go left. Nah, I'm coming back. What school needs to be? I feel like I ain't gonna hold you. I know it's a gifted school, but Spencer needs to be gone. I'm sorry.
But
they don't even have a gym, bro.
I know, but look, though, you got to think, does that school necessarily hurt what we talking about?
I mean, it helps education numbers. Put it somewhere else.
I know, but it don't hurt the sport and outlook of what we talking about for the most part. Now could they go to Walnut Hills? Yeah, but I think,
bro, they wasting time, bro.
But it don't hurt us though. Like it's other schools. So like,
what about
taking money from us? It's another school open.
Let's do it.
Everybody at Spencer can go to Walnut Hills.
Right.
Okay, let's do this. And I know I'm probably gonna take a lot of flack for this, but here we go. Okay, so half the kids at Riverview don't even go to school to be
at all.
You could make a point about schools like Euler and the rest of them. That's just there. CCPA
Euler can go to West High.
Can be consolidated into Taft.
Can't just say they at Riverview.
What'd you say? It can be consolidated into Taft?
I said CCPA. I mean, it's downtown.
It's Cincinnati Public though, so they don't really.
Yeah,
they're not Cincinnati Public no more.
Nah, they a charter school.
Yeah, they're a charter school.
Okay. Well, sorry. By Clark.
You said who?
Clark.
He said by Clark. They can go to Walnut Hill.
They said Schroeder can go into Clark.
Schroeder can, and this is my school, and I love them. You can dissolve Schroeder. Sorry, you can dissolve. That's my school, and I love my school. I put blood, sweat, and tears. I put a banner up at my school, but my school can go too.
But this is Riverview's last year.
Yeah, I'm about to say somebody said Riverview was in their last years anyway, but I think if certain places keep growing around the city, some of these schools may be in trouble anyway.
My thing is, I don't understand why Euler is not part of West High.
Hey, I love you, dog. I love you, dog. This is my bad, man. I gotta tell the truth, bro.
No, but Euler,
but it's still he was gonna go first though.
Euler can't necessarily go into West High because Euler is a community-based school and they got K through 12. So you would still have.
They are K through 12.
Yeah,
I forgot.
Okay, so what is Gamble doing?
On the verge of being gone.
Need to go to West High.
Is it two?
Yeah,
Is
basically.
it the Gamble Elementary and the Gamble?
It is, but they're two different buildings. It's two different buildings.
Yeah, they're in two different buildings, ain't they?
Yeah, it's two different buildings with Gamble Elementary.
Even about Euler, okay, they can let them have an elementary school. That don't mean they have to be a high school.
They all know that whole thing is together, Big John.
Once again, let them have a K through junior high.
I know I'm biased because in the past few years I just now reconnected to my alma mater. I don't think there needs to be just one school on the east side of Cincinnati if you still happen to be in the city and haven't been gentrified by the rest of the plans. Because I don't think everybody should have to go to that school, Madison Road, if they don't want to go.
Well, they can go. Well, that's kind of I don't want to call it that, but they kind of east side high right now. Woodward kind of Woodward kind of they need a Joe Clark.
East side
They need a Joe Clark bad. And that's my dad's school. That was my favorite coach's school. Coach Sharp. He coached there. He coached my dad. But yeah, they look like the school.
Well, don't they got Brother Sam back there as the principal at Woodward again?
I don't know who they got, but right now
he can't jack the kids up the way he used to. But you know,
they the school Coolio was talking about in Gangsta's Paradise. It's real
dangerous mind.
It's real ugly up there right there. Man, you can't even drive through Bar Hill right now without getting shot at by a Woodward person.
Man, it's crazy over there. I ain't gonna hold you. Hey, shout out to James Millen being the
hey man, hold it down, James. I'm praying for you every day, big dog.
I know, little bro over there at Woodward. But I tell you what, driving through Bond Hill, it's like being in a time capsule because it's one of the few communities that just outright ain't gave up to gentrification. They
ain't fighting. It's too many.
Unlike my community,
it's too many older black people that still live in Bond Hill.
Especially in Roseline. They're not selling house. They ain't selling their house over there in Roseline.
I mean, and even in Evanston, yes, Xavier and other entities have taken, over, but there's still a conglomerate there. Unlike me and Nate's neighborhood growing up that just gave up completely. And yeah,
we ain't even fight back, bro. It was bad. We
ain't
even fight back.
At all.
It's on downtown Oakley now.
Yeah, they call it.
Hold on, man. Stop that, bro. Don't call us.
That's what they call it. They call it East Oakley,
bro. Don't do that.
They call it East Oakley,
bro.
I don't know who told you that. I ain't heard nobody call it East
Oakley. The little white women walking their pit bulls. That's who told me. That's who told me.
Okay, so moving on. There is a downtown Madisonville though now, with over there by Bad Tom Smith Brewing and the Mattermore. That's what they call it, downtown Madisonville.
Right.
East Oakley.
Right.
So, well, we established what schools we think should and should not survive the consolidation of CPS. Nate's school should go first, but
that's crazy, bro. Hey, black man, help me, bro. We gotta fight back, man. Golly.
What's it called now? The Math and Science Academy or something?
No, man, it ain't none of that. It's STEM school now, man. That's how it is.
STEM school. Okay. Hey, man, y'all know Clifton don't want y'all there.
Hey, man, I ain't gonna take too much slander. Too much more slander out here. I tell you that.
All jokes aside, bro. Like I work for CPS, man. Y'all kids be having a lot of problems in that Clifton area. They don't want them kids down there, bro. They don't.
I mean, that's been like that since I was in school. What do you mean?
I know.
They ain't want us.
That's why I need to go, Nate.
I know, but the pressure's on now. If they can get rid of Deaconess Hospital, what is Hughes?
Right. No, Deacon, that wasn't even no real hospital.
No, I'm just joking. But so Coach Black, bringing it back into sports, like. Who, as far as role models, especially in the coaching profession, whether personally that you knew growing up, or people on TV at the collegiate or NBA level, who were some of your influences growing up in the coaching field?
Growing up, nobody. I didn't want to be a coach. I wanted to be a player. Crazy
Yeah,
story,
he thought he
man.
was going to the league.
Yeah, crazy story. Crazy story is I was a football kid my whole life, and when I got to high school age, I wanted to go to Colerain. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to go to Colerain. I wanted to go to Colerain. All my family went there, and when I couldn't get into Colerain, my mom sent me to Hughes, and I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna play basketball now because Colerain played Hughes the first game of the season, and it wasn't always the prettiest thing to see. So when I went there, and one of my big cousin, he was on the team. He's talking about 2-a-days and all that stuff. I was like, yeah, I'm cool. I'm a basketball player now, man. I ain't about to. I ain't doing all that. But so fast forward, I'm in college. My boy, Jamar Mosley, the coach at Purcell, we both went to Hughes together. We both played at Hughes together. We had 4 coaches in 4 years, so we never really was able to stick with like one and build none besides our last coach, Brian Wyatt, that's out at Princeton now. So I'm in college. I come back home. I'm at UC. He like, yo, I'm coaching the middle school team. I'm like, nah, I ain't doing that, bro. He's like, nah, just help me out. So I would come over there and help out the middle school team at Hughes because this was when the middle school had just got into Hughes. So it was new to us. So, we was coaching middle school there. And then after that first year, the next year they moved me to a freshman coach. And now I'm like kind of just there. I'm loving it. I was liking it. I was happy to be doing it, but I never thought that I would be a coach. That was never my plan. I just did it to help my guy out, and he go on to win 4 state championships. And, I go on to make Aiken basketball history. So, it's just crazy how that worked out. But like once
y'all both almost won state championships the same year.
I know, man. He texted me out.
Yeah,
that would have been historic, man, for the Hughes Alumni Association,
for
man.
sure.
Yeah, but so like a coach that was a mentor to me was Coach Wyatt. That was the last coach I had as a senior, and he kept me around his staff throughout Hughes, and he even took me on the staff when he went to Princeton. Like even my first stint at Hughes, the only reason why I really took the job is because of one kid. All right, he asked me to coach. Cameron McKenzie was like, I need to stay and coach me, coach, and I was like, all right, I got you. And then when I left after that year, my son had some medical stuff going on, and I was like, you know what? I only did it for that 1 year. I don't think I'm ready. Some things went down. I was like, all right, well, I got to step away. I went up to Princeton. When I got to Princeton, so many people was telling me like, bro, it was so tough the game plan for y'all. It was this, it was that. You should be a head coach. And I got there and I started feeling like I need to get back in the game. So
I told you that freshman year, I said, bro, I said you shouldn't even be coaching freshmen.
Yeah.
The thing is, when I never forget that game, I won the game at Hughes because that was the first, my alma mater, so I had a vendetta on them. So, but when you came to Shorten, when y'all came to Shorten, y'all beat us. I said, bro, you changed your whole game plan in about a stint of 2 weeks, and at that time we wasn't watching film, we just showing up to the game. Like you seen one thing and you changed it. I remember you took Felder out. You took Felder away out of the whole game the second game. I'll never forget that freshman year. But the thing is, when we coached against each other, we always had me and you talking to each other while the game going on. It was a good time. We enjoyed coaching due to the fact that we love seeing the development, but at the same time, we know how to still have fun while coaching. Cause cussing a kid out the whole game or yelling at a kid the whole game, you ain't getting no joy out of that. You just letting them have it. And I think that's what the problem is. A lot of coaches in CPS, they get so deep and knee deep into coaching, they don't know how to decipher the fact that you got to remember you're still trying to develop these kids into young men or young ladies, whatever you coaching. You still going through the development phases with these kids. These kids ain't grown.
Well, it
ain't like you coaching grown men.
That's a good point, bro, because I think the reason why it was easy for me to just trust God and make a decision like this is because I'm not tied to coaching. Like it don't make me who I am.
That's not your identity.
And I think some of these guys who've been doing it for a while, it become them, like the only thing they got. And then it become about them winning. It become about them getting the next job. It become about them being in the newspaper or the article. It ain't about the program and the kids. So I think that's why we had so much fun doing it that way, because we did it for the love and for the fun and for the enjoyment of watching the kids develop and them chase their dreams. It's some coaches that's coaching chasing their dreams right now. It's coaches trying to chase the next job or the next opportunity. And I think
For
that's
sure.
drop the ball at, and it become personal. They on social media, they on this, they on that. They don't want to shake your hand and all that stuff because they be getting caught up into that.
It's for real.
Yeah,
I'll
like
never forget being in high school my junior year. A coach didn't shake the other coach's hand because they had beat us by 15.
yeah.
You can't be mad about that. They did their job.
I walked
If
into that situation at Purcell with God rest his soul, Brother Dowdy,
Yeah.
being on, his staff, and the whole interaction between him and former Deer Park head coach Calvin, and there was some handshakes that weren't exchanged for, like you said, previous vendettas or reasons, and almost jumped off. But that was my whole point, and why I haven't jumped back in. There have been a lot of people that have asked. I've had some opportunities. People ask, Al, why don't you get back into coaching? And you a natural at it. And I said, I was, but I said, the coaching part and the relationship with the kids was the easy part. Dealing with the
the
adults and the other
politics.
politics and stuff that y'all know I'm not going to, because I don't have to and don't need it. Like, I always made plain and simple. I was there for the kids and for the love of the game, and I'm not in
Mm-hmm.
it for anything else. So doing all that other stuff, it would have to be a special opportunity or a place that I had a connection to or wanted to, for me to do that, because it would really be about the game and helping the kids, as opposed to trying to make a career out of it necessarily, or looking for that next stepping stone opportunity, which is a lot of what happens. People are in it for the wrong reasons, as you said, and they supposed to be about developing young men and women and the life lessons that they learn along the way. And yes, the competition part of it is very important, but like I said, it's about the kids first, not the adults.
For sure. And I shout out to Big Brother Mike. Mike said something when me and him had a conversation. He said politics shouldn't determine basketball, to be honest. So that's a
Like
big
that,
thing. That's
preach.
a big thing with basketball. To real basketball and football, politics shouldn't determine if a kid can play for a certain person or play to a certain capacity. It should be to the point where the game should be able to basically take over everything, to be honest.
But it does, Nate. And like I said, without
I
getting
know
too
it
deep, or,
does. I know it
or throwing
does.
anybody under the bus, because I'm
Yeah,
not
it's
about
raining
that,
hard.
but it certainly existed at Purcell Marion when I was there, even within the building. You know, uh, Different identities, different programs, themselves, there within the sports programs, competing for, opportunity or, exposure, certain kids being treated a certain way, in my opinion, or what was expressed, by them, kids that were there, on tuition, or versus the kids that were vouchers. I mean, politics can run rampant in a number of different ways, or adults competing with each other for the next job within the school, who's going to be the dean of this or that, or the athletic director, that it only amplifies with each step you go up the pyramid, and the bigger the school, the more funding that's involved. It gets worse as far as politics.
Hmm. I agree.
So Coach Black, one of the last questions, before we let you get out of here. Did you have a favorite basketball player growing up?
Yeah. Growing up, I was, Kobe and Shaq, and then once they had their little fallout, I went over to Vince Carter, and I remember, being sad when they lost to AI and them in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I went outside, and one of my friends had a magazine. He was like, "Man, it's this young dude who about to come into the league, man. He's one of the best players in the country." It was a magazine with LeBron James on there, and I was young. I was like 11 or 12, and he was like, he gonna
Oh,
be
you
the
just
next
made me
dude.
feel real old.
Yeah, and,
Jesus.
yeah. And then from that day on, I've just been, a fan of LeBron James and what he been doing around the league, and how he, just continued to chase the greatness that was on him as a youngster. So, that's been one of my favorite players. But now, he at the end of the road, so I'm trying to figure out if I'm gonna have just teams, or if I'm gonna have some young guys that I like. I like Shea. I like Ant-Man, but it might be over for me having the best player after this.
Yeah. Well, Coach Black, we're not gonna hold you, brother. We definitely appreciate you coming on Factual Opinions and
Sure. Appreciate you,
talking
bro.
about your journey this past year and your journey going forward. And wish you the best with the family and your relationship with the man upstairs and everything you got coming to you, brother.
Hey, appreciate you guys, man. It was a pleasure.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Sure.
All right, thank y'all.
Yes, sir. So, ladies and gentlemen, we got the exclusive here on Factual Opinions Podcast. We had Coach Black stop by and dish on
Mike, you too late.
what he
You see
say.
what he
So, question Coach Black, can you probably just for 3 minutes stop in for a minute? She made history. No 5 stars or 4 stars. Let the city know you him.
Hey, man, for sure.
For sure, man.
Hey,
For
man.
sure.
That's why we had him on here. You
Yeah,
know,
for
Congratulations,
sure.
man, to them young men that he coached, man, because y'all had a hell of a season. It was
Yeah,
crazy
man.
watching that last game. I kept wanting
Shout
to
out
turn
to that whole Aiken staff,
I
man.
kept
'cause,
wanting to turn the game off, man, because y'all kept it close. But when y'all kept
man,
fighting back, I had to turn it back on, man, because y'all kept it in, man. And I was
yeah,
praying
man.
that
They
y'all
did a great job, man.
I was praying y'all finished the job. But even though y'all didn't, man, y'all had a hell of a season. Congratulations, man.
so that is proof, as I mentioned earlier, that it can be done as long as the right people are in place to do so.
Yeah, I will say he
Basketball
had
or
an amazing
football.
staff and everything, bro. He had everything together. He did it, like I said, he did it right. He did
That's
everything
where it
correct.
starts with because he mentioned a number of things, whether it was the social media campaign and making the attractiveness of the program go up, and then you have to have the infrastructure there when you are there to keep the kids engaged, train them up, coach them, get that extra 10-15% out of players. Like Mike said, every school's not going to inherit those D1 bodies, so to speak, or
Mm-hmm.
players that do that. So it's incumbent on the coaching staff to get the best out of them and to have some skills of their own really to enhance what you already have. So that's the difference. I won't bring anybody up by name, but I've explained it many times that oftentimes in certain districts the status quo becomes accepted, and certain people are okay with there being a ceiling, because what happens is it's sort of like, and I'll dip into Nate's field and his podcast and platform that deals on relationships and stuff. You know, good relationship is harder to maintain than a bad one, because
Mm-hmm.
in a good relationship there's accountability and there's give and take on both sides, and a standard that you have to maintain or sometimes exceed to not let things erode. So it's the same thing really in sports when you're building the program, and if you do start to win, the expectations rise, and to keep it going, that requires more effort than just sitting back going through the motions and saying whatever happens happens. And a lot of times I can make an argument that there are certain schools and the district itself is not really willing to take that extra step and to maintain that. So that's a whole nother thing in itself. Winning is one thing, but maintaining it is a whole separate issue.
Hey, man, I like the way you do business.
Four brothers. Would you say, John, it's cold when you're out here by yourself?
Right, it's cold out here when y'all here by yourself.
Did y'all brothers have anything that you wanted to get off your chest that we didn't cover, this episode, or anything you wanted to talk about?
Go ahead, John. I'll let you go first.
Well, we ain't get to talk about it, but did you hear what Miss? I know you don't like to say it, but you hear what Miss Blackburn had to say about your defensive end? Said he should be happy with the contract, or he should be happy, or something. And they ain't really talked to the man either in the past couple of weeks. So that may be a problem. I mean, not they probably weren't going to be able to keep him anyway, but
I heard Andy trying to talk him into something.
I don't have a problem with that as much as some other people do, because I'm a little bit more realistic when looking at this situation. You paid Jamar, which everybody knew was coming, or at least I did, and I told people they were going to do that at the very least. Bringing T back, was huge. What Trey Hendrickson is asking for or wanting versus what any team, whether it's the Bengals or a trade partner, are willing to provide are two different things. He'll be turning 31 this year. While he did lead the league in sacks last year, I want everybody to go do their research and check into the amount of guys that post double-digit sack seasons after the age of 30. If it was me and it was in the budget, 'cause somebody asked me, Jeff asked me, what would I do in this situation if I was the Brown family? I'm not paying Trey Hendrickson $30 million a year. I mean,
Not
and if
either.
they were to do that, you're talking about nearly their whole salary cap being ate up in four players. It might be a situation where they have to do what's called addition by subtraction. If they do wind up trading him and getting, a draft pick or multiple draft picks to address the defense, which is the problem at this point. It wasn't the offense last year. And find guys that can rush the passer. I'm not saying that they're going to turn into Trey Hendrickson, but you can look at teams like Philadelphia that have great players on each level of the defense, all three levels, on the defensive line, at linebacker, in the secondary, or pieces that just fit, as opposed to one superstar that you're dependent on to get your sack numbers. You could go out and you could get, multiple players in this draft, especially with it being a pass rush, especially if you get you an edge to rush the passer on third down or multiple guys, you might be able to get close to making up for the production of Trey Hendrickson and get younger in the process. The Eagles had the majority of their defense on their first year contracts, rookie
Mm-hmm.
contracts, which is why they were able to do what they did, pay Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, and Jalen Hurts. So there's a similar blueprint out there. So to answer your question, Big John, I did briefly see that, and I know that Trey got on Pat McAfee and was talking about it, but it's just one of those situations where the Bengals might not be able to do that.
He was on there when?
He was on there. And he didn't say nothing bad. He was just saying, he thought he would have a contract done by now. They spoke about it. He said his camp hasn't really been informed the past couple of weeks after saying they were going to talk about it. He didn't really say nothing disrespectful. He was just saying, I played out my contract. I did what I had to do. I mean, he gave the
He still got a year left. He ain't play out the contract.
I mean, playing good into his contract. I mean, like stuff like that. He was just saying all the politically correct answers. He ain't really saying.
And he wants a long-term extension too. That's what
Yeah.
people are forgetting. And like I said,
I'm
he'll
giving
turn
him
30.
2 years, and I'm giving him 15.
Well, I said 2 years when Jeff asked me. I said 2 years, $40 million is what I would, offer him. And if that don't work, okay, we'll trade you before or during the draft. Because ultimately, with him wanting a 3, 4, or even 5-year extension, I think that's what Miss Blackburn is talking about. Like, you need to be realistic. Like, I don't think there's any team that's going to give him a 4 or 5-year extension at age 31.
Not at 31. He's not playing till he's 36.
That's the other thing that you had to be realistic about that I think she's mentioning. So she did have a comment that was taken out of context a little bit, but just being realistic. Does he deserve over the, what is it, 16, 18 million he's getting this year? And I hate just throwing those numbers around like they're nothing, but I understand what he's looking at it from, football perspective. Should he be paid higher than that? Yeah. But I'm not giving you 30 million a year when I can go out and get, a James Pierce or the guy Mike Green from, Marshall, or double up and possibly get Jack Sawyer or JT Tumalo in the, second or third round. There are pass rushers galore available in this draft and would allow you to fix other holes that you have on your defense, where if you pay him 30 million, it's not going to happen. So that's how I feel about it. Nate, your Celtics going to be all right, man, before we get out of here?
Yeah, that'd be all right. We do this. We did this the last 3 years. Lose a ton of games at home and winning all over the world, but can't win at home. This ain't nothing new. We did it last year.
I just need my Knicks to get Jalen Brunson back in the lineup.
Yeah.
And we'll see what Luka
That's hurting y'all right now.
Luka and the Ageless Wonder will do
y'all
out
on
in
the
LA.
border of the play-in right now.
It'll be all right, man. They're just getting settled with LeBron getting back healthy and everything. They were on a nice little run before he got hurt.
Yeah, before he got hurt. Yeah, they were. I ain't gonna hold you.
Aren't the Lakers? Well, they're not.
No, I was talking about the Knicks. The Knicks on the verge of a play-in spot.
Oh well, yeah.
Not
Well, the
yet.
Knicks, the
Like
Knicks are
fourth.
locked into the 3rd seed, bro.
They ain't a lock.
They basically, I'm saying they are a lock for the 3rd seed unless they have a nosedive. There ain't that many weeks in the season left.
Oh yeah, you got to. It's only like 2 weeks, ain't it? I'm
We just
tripping.
need Jalen Brunson to be back, healthy,
He needs to be
going
back
into the
by
playoffs.
playoffs.
Absolutely. So now it'll be interesting to see what your Bengals do. One last thing I want to touch on before we leave again, the Shedeur Sanders hate.
It's tough right now. It's a lot.
The Shedeur Sanders hate is getting ridiculous.
It's a lot too.
What's that old saying? The child pays for the sins of their fathers. They coming at him reckless.
Crazy.
And Prime didn't do
I was
nothing
watching
to
it
nobody.
earlier.
Prime didn't do nothing either, but they dislike Prime so much that they're taking it out on him.
Well, Shedeur already alluded to that, like, hey, it's got to be about the last name on the back of the jersey. Why y'all coming at me like this?
Because it can't be the numbers of the production. It can't be that.
Some of it I thought might have been intentional for teams angling for Shedeur to get him to slide in the draft, because that stuff does happen in the lead up to the draft, where people will talk down on a certain guy because they want them to drop or be available for them once they're on the clock. But I believe it was what is Matt Hasselbeck's brother's name? Is it Tim Hasselbeck?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I saw him, and y'all know I love the Red Rifle. I respect him for what he did here. Did he underachieve a little bit, slightly? But then again, Bengals went to the playoffs 5 years in a row with him, which had never happened in franchise history. I saw Tim Hasselbeck make an NFL comparison of Shedeur Sanders to Andy Dalton. I felt disrespected for Shedeur.
Of course. And people would just be saying a lot of comments. And I'm not saying, he was an NFL player. I'm not saying he doesn't know his stuff. But people say stuff on TV for shock value. There's no way in hell you think Shedeur Sanders is Andy Dalton. And Andy Dalton,
the Red Rifle though.
And this is no disrespect to Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton was good in college. This is no disrespect to him. But come on, dog. Come on, man. Come on, bro.
Yeah, he was no top 5 consideration at all at any point during his time at TCU.
He was not.
I hope that Shedeur still ends up in the right situation. I highly doubt, regardless of what prognosticators are saying, that he,
His
slips
pro
out
day
of
was today.
Yeah. Well, that's partly why I'm bringing it up also, to make this into a clip. But I highly doubt that Shedeur Sanders slides, past the top 10, top 15. He's probably still going to be a top 10, pick.
For sure.
Here's the thing, and I love my U guy. I think Shedeur is more pro ready than Cam.
He is.
I just think Tennessee wants to grab Cam because Cam is a good player. He's a top 3 quarterback in this draft, but I feel like Shedeur is more pro ready than Cam.
They're acting like Cam is the second coming of Steve McNair, and I'm not remotely going that far. But
no.
I think Cam would be.
I want Cam to do well. I feel like
I think Cam will be a good football player. I don't want to act like I'm dissing him, but I think at the end of the day, he's more dependent. If I could piggyback a little bit on what you're saying, Big John, I think Cam, to be NFL ready, he's more dependent on coming into the right system that fits him and his abilities, as opposed to, I feel like if you draft Shedeur, he's pro ready. He has more of a chance, in my opinion, of succeeding in any system versus Cam, who might need to be a little bit more specified. Where he goes.
Because I've been hearing people talk. I mean, they've been talking about Cam and Shedeur, and the guy they've been talking about Dart from Ole Miss. Why ain't nobody talking about Quinn Ewers no more? Did he do something? Like,
I don't think he had a good pro day.
But the production he put up at Texas, the games he won, yeah, sometimes he didn't show up. Cool. But a lot
I
of the
heard he
guys,
didn't have a good pro day.
but a
That
lot of
was
the
what
guys that they talk
Dan was
about
talking
ahead
about
of him
today.
didn't show up in big games either. So I'm like, did he fall off or something? Like,
So what I heard from the research that I've done, and this was even before the college football season ended. Everybody knows the talent, is there. Yes, the underachievement was part of it, but what I heard is some franchises are a little bit concerned about his turnovers and how likely he was to do that, and often did sometimes. Like, certain times he could be lights out, and then other times it was like, who was he throwing the
right.
ball to, or his pocket awareness, as you saw Captain Jack come around the edge and seal that game. So there are slight concerns on Quinn Edwards that are making him not that top QB that we thought he was going to be whenever he did enter the draft.
Yeah, and I'm not saying Dart from Ole Miss is bad, but I didn't really see anything special, and I didn't get enough of the guy from Louisville, even though I know he got the measurables. He's a big guy. I ain't really seen too much of him to say he's the fourth best quarterback in the draft right now. Like,
Well, particularly with quarterbacks, this happens every year in the draft. For whatever reason, you'll have a Zach Wilson creep in that, me being the football connoisseur that I was. Yeah. I mean, I had at least heard of Mitchell Trubisky because, he's an Ohio product, and I, saw what he did at North Carolina. But I totally overlooked Zach Wilson, or did not hear about him until
didn't
that
hear
draft.
about him either.
And it was
I just knew he went to BYU. That was it.
It was just an excuse not to draft Justin Fields, is all it was. Because ain't nothing come out of BYU since Jim McMahon and Steve Young and Jaws back in the day.
Right. But even with the Mr. Trubisky thing, I know he's an Ohio kid, but he played 1 year really at North Carolina. Like, it wasn't really that much.
I don't know if they do it for
John.
shock
You
value.
can't ignore it. He had a big year at North Carolina.
He had a decent year.
I don't know if they do it for shock value, or guys just really lock in on one particular guy, because we all know the only person that was 100% sold on Patrick Mahomes was Louis Riddick, coming out of college. But then there are guys that are just off, where, like I said, they'll fall in love with a Zach Wilson, they'll fall in love with a Mitchell, Trubisky. And something that, Chris Carter said that ended up getting him booted off of national TV, if certain guys posted this, I'll clean it up a little bit. If certain guys posted the seasons that Daniel Jones did at Duke, they borderline not even be drafted, let alone first round draft pick.
Exactly. But and I think, like you said, everybody's trying to find the Allen or Mahomes. Because, like I said, didn't nobody want Allen? He had to fight to get in Wyoming. So it's like everybody's trying to find that Allen or Mahomes, but everybody's not built like that. Like, you're not gonna find that every day. So you giving I don't want to call them busts, but you giving these guys a shot at being a first round draft pick that really have no business with being there. And the funny part about it is, a lot of people are giving Brock Purdy flack. He shouldn't even have been Mr. Irrelevant. He was pretty decent at Iowa State. Should he have been the last person in the draft? I don't think he should have been. But he should have went way higher than that. But it's a lot of guys like the Mitchell Trubisky's, like the Kenny Pickett's, like all these quarterbacks that you've given these top draft picks to that don't do anything. Partly because they go to the wrong system. Secondly, because they probably really ain't that good to begin with.
So they always overdraft quarterbacks, and we know that. Spurgeon Wynn was drafted before Tom Brady. So,
I don't even know who that is.
Exactly. So it's not a perfect science, but then again, I do believe part of the problem also is guys, and Mike talked about this a couple episodes ago, Mike Pilgrim. You have guys now evaluating talent who never even played the damn game that they're evaluating talent on, and the analytics have taken over instead of the true scouts, or people even in basketball like Pat Riley, or in football the what's my man that used to be the GM of the Bills and the Colts,
Bill Polian.
Bill Polians of the world, or a Bill Walsh that can go down to Mississippi Valley State and find a Jerry Rice, or Tennessee Chattanooga and find a Terrell Owens. That is starting to become extinct. Where as guys that actually know the game, eat, sleep, drink it. I can't really explain it from an analytical standpoint, but when you see the guy. Jerry West, who was hell bent on trading to get a 17-year-old phenom from the suburbs of Philadelphia when 12 other teams passed him by in that 1996 NBA draft. Because I saw a segment a while back that I was laughing my butt off where they said, hey man, the 96 NBA draft was one of the most historical classes ever. It's up there. I still think it's the best, but it's up there with the 03 class, 1984. But they said, what would you do if we could redraft that class? And even Allen Iverson was like, well, yeah, Kobe's going number one.
For sure.
And we redraft that. And then you can get into arguments about where Stephon Marbury belongs or Steve Nash or, the rest of that, class. But yeah, I mean, in hindsight, it's 2020. But I just think sometimes, particularly in today's time, people get psyched out on these analytics and certain stuff that don't even have anything to do with the actual game, itself. And that's why you have these picks. It ain't just football, it's basketball too, where it happens. Because that last NBA draft.
Basketball is the equivalent of we're drafting on potential. Like they be picking guys they don't really even know, they barely seen, probably from another country. It's what they're gonna do versus what they can do. At least football is a mixture. It's like, all right, what can they do and what will they do?
You remember that meme though that I posted of Tommy Davidson?
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Who are these?"
Right.
That was essentially this past year's NBA draft.
Yeah.
Well, fellas, again, we want to thank our special guest, former Aiken basketball head coach Derrell Black, for stopping through. Want to remind everybody, if you can't catch the live stream, which Facebook deletes after 30 days now, it will continue to be on YouTube for you to view. And yes, because I got everything straight with StreamYard, it will be back on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio for everybody who's an audio listener. So again, we want to thank everybody who tuned in today. Please subscribe to the social media pages for Factual Opinions Podcast and check out the audio platforms. It's your host, I am Farrell, checking out with the Brown, Bruce Wayne, Big John.
Yes, sir.
And Will West, the best Nate.
You know it.